Alright, I initially was not planning to do a fifth on the Boozing and Losing series, but something has been bothering me for almost a month now, so I'm going to go ahead and speak out. So, there's a part of human psychology that I wanted to bring up that is actually good for humanity in the long run, but actually doesn't work in our favor in this particular setting. And that is why I am titling this one, Enemies of Sobriety. Okay, now some of you know me from the TFM's Discord server, and you're probably going to know the story I'm about to talk about. But if you're not, then yeah, it's going to be rather interesting. Okay, but before I get into that story, let me get into the psychology part I was telling you about. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you guys already know that humans by nature are very social yet tribalistic at the same time. Now, it's just human nature to want to be able to gather amongst their own kind or gather with people that they have in common. Yeah, sometimes humans tend to build their little alliances over things like sports, TV shows, and politics, or whatever they have in common. Now, this was actually a necessary thing to do because humans actually had to be able to band together to hunt, find food, gather water, and all that good stuff in order to survive. So, group cohesion and creating norms was actually something that was kind of essential to survival. And I think that's where we get the tendency to shun nonconformity. Now, we all know the saying, there's strength in numbers, right? Well, that is generally true. Because let's say you were a human living in the days of the Ice Age, like 10,000 BC or something. Are you going to be able to take down a woolly mammoth all by yourself with just your spear? Chances are that answer is no. You're going to need yourself a group of men to ensure your chances of actually catching that prey. So every able-bodied person in that tribe is going to have to do their part, or else they're going to put the entire tribe at risk, especially if that function of theirs is very critical to their survival. So obviously taking losses within the group is going to be considered detrimental. And obviously one of those things is making babies. If the women aren't making babies, then the tribe is going to shun them, because without babies, the tribe is going to die out. Now, tribalism isn't always about tribes and survival, it's also special interest groups and other things similar to that. Let's say drinking with someone was considered a symbol of social status or something like that. Now, if you were to stop drinking with that person, because drinking with that person actually makes you look good, then that bond would be rather important to them. Okay, so imagine you're with a group of friends, they're all drinking, they offer you some alcohol, and you say, no thanks, I don't drink anymore. Now, there are those that are going to applaud you and respect that, but there's also going to be those that are thinking, what, you think you're better than us now that you don't drink anymore? Or they might think, wait a minute, something's wrong here. This guy doesn't drink? That's not normal. Let's try to coax him. No, try to get him back into it. And they do that without even considering your reasons as to why you stopped drinking, as well as what makes them justified. So, has that ever happened to you? Well, it's definitely happened to me, even in recent times. Alright, so here's a poorly done rendition of what they are trying to get me to do sometimes. And by they, I mean the normie NPCs, not you guys.
Drink, 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 drink.
That's it for this one.
He floated it by himself!
What else you got?
Now, you're probably thinking, now why do you even associate with those types of people? Although I generally keep to myself and I basically have no friends by design, sometimes it's unavoidable. I mean, it could be coworkers, and in my case, my roommate. Now, before I go into this, now I'm not shaming anybody. If you're going to drink, then I can't stop you. I can't tell you what you can and cannot do with your body. All I ask is that you please drink responsibly. And don't try to drag me into it, especially after I've told you no. Unironically, I think he was drunk while I was recording this. And that brings me to one of the worst situations I've ever found myself into thanks to the tribal drinking mindset. So remember that stream where Kat was drunk and he was just totally unhinged that night? So that night, my roommate brought home a friend, a female friend. So I was slightly curious about this new friend that he brought over, and I decided, get to know her a bit. And you know what? She was actually a fun person to be around. Now, she also told me that she was a lesbian too, which I wasn't exactly bothered by, but I was like, okay, sure. But that's an important detail, which I'm going to get to in a moment. So yeah, the three of us were just messing around for a while, just talking and, having a good time. But eventually, they decided they want to go get some booze and they want to go get some weed. And you know what? I wasn't really bothered by that because I was thinking, no, as long as they're not asking me to do it, then cool. So we run out, we grab a few things, and they grab their booze, and they seem to be, kind of thrilled. But yeah, I should have known that someone would eventually start offering me booze, and on multiple occasions. I wasn't really bothered by it because I put my foot down and I said, nope, I do not drink anymore, I quit. Yes, and eventually that was respected, which I appreciated. But let's just say this next part is a prime example of why I quit drinking. So, what kind of booze did they buy? Gin. Now, for those of you who don't know, gin is my favorite drink of all. I can drink it straight, no tonic water, no lime, none of that. I drink it straight because I love the taste of it and it gets you drunk very, very fast. Alright, let's go ahead and fast forward to the part where I'm the only sober one in the house and they're both smashed. So, they're both stumbling around, not speaking coherently, and all kinds of stuff. But since my roommate was so heavily inebriated, he didn't really have control over what he was doing and what he was saying. He was constantly trying to throw himself at her, and, she was not having it. So eventually she walks him to his bedroom, lays him down, puts him to bed so he can, sleep it off. Which I thought was a good idea because, frankly, I didn't want to get between him. But while he's in his bedroom, laying on his bed, he's still going on about, why won't you love me? Love me, love me. So yeah, needless to say, it was getting pretty bad. So what the lesbian girl decides to do is come to my room and try to, hide from the guy because he's not in the best mental state. Now, do you already see where this is going? Because, let me tell you, it really gets worse from here. So before I get into what actually happened, I'm going to tell you about a few things that actually happened before all this took place, before they got drunk and everything. Now, somehow we got onto the subject of food stamps. More notably speaking, if you made under this amount, then you qualify. And he was asking me, do you make X amount of money, don't you? And I said, no, I actually make more than that, so no, I don't qualify for food stamps. And he was like, wait, what, you do? I didn't know that. And she was kind of surprised also because, let's just say neither of them make as much as I do combined. So not too long after that, we were sitting in the living room just hanging out. And I think she may have intentionally tried to trigger my erection. Not by doing anything sexually, of course. But unfortunately, I hate to say it, she was successful at it. Then I started to ask myself, now why is she glancing towards me but in a downward angle? Well, of course, I didn't ask her that directly, but that was my suspicion. And now, let's jump back to the part where there's the drunk girl in my room. So I have an Xbox One in here, and I offered to let her play Cuphead on it. So we were just sitting around talking, eating some of the snacks that we had, and so on, while she continued to drink, that is. Of course, at the time I was thinking, yeah, she's a lesbian, so I don't think that anything is going to quote-unquote happen. But this is why you never, ever make such assumptions. Now, during her drunken waffling, she was talking to me about how she regretted being such a terrible person. Now, what she meant by that, I was not entirely sure. She also mentioned that she came from a broken home, and I felt kind of bad for her at the time. Then she asked me, to no surprise, what I did for a living. So I told her, and then she started to kiss me. Then, needless to say, she quickly threw off all her clothes and tried to bang me. Now, I don't know if this is a common thing or not, but for some reason the scent of a drunk woman triggers my erection instantly. So I could think about old nuns all day and it just wouldn't do a darn thing. So at the time, I was really freaking out because I was not sure what to do. Now, it's not that I haven't been in this position before, it's just that the last time this happened to me, the drunk girl never actually got into my apartment. She wanted to get in, but I didn't let her in because I knew what would happen or what would likely happen if I did. But this chick, I had never met her before, I'd never seen her in my entire life, and I didn't know anything about her other than what I was told that night. So I didn't know whether she would be a violent drunk if I had refused her. I didn't know if she would immediately dial 911 and call rape or something. I did not know. So I started playing various scenarios in my head. One was to give in to her, let her get what she wants, and then move along, or tell her no and then deal with the consequences later, which could have been a number of things, such as she calling the cops and saying that I raped her anyway, or tried to abuse her, or anything like that. So I did not know if she was a malicious person or anything like that, because I had no background or intel other than what I was told. So what did I do? Since there was a condom nearby, I decided to take the path of least resistance. So I put it on and I let her do her thing. We fornicated, and I am not proud of this at all. Now, it doesn't stop there, because it actually does get worse. So let's just say that she wasn't satisfied with one round, which leads to a possible confirmation of my earlier suspicions, and that was that she was trying to get knocked up so that she could live off of child support. So the first thing I do instinctively was take the used condom that still had my semen in it, tie it up, and toss it out of sight. Well, that's always been standard procedure for me in the past. Always tie off the condoms before flushing it or throwing it away or whatever. Well, yes, it only slows her down, but it gives you enough time to actually stop her if it comes to that. Well, I don't think she noticed either way, so that's nothing I had to worry about there. So then, yeah, she wants to do me without the rubber next. But this time, I'm telling her no, I don't want any kids. And what her response was that we can just pull out, or that I was on contraceptive, and I was not buying that because, for one, I know women lie about contraceptive, and second, I know the pull-out method, generally speaking, does not work. So at that point, I had to choose between the possibility of jail time or child support. And because I hate the idea of bringing a child into this clown world, I chose the possibility of going to jail instead. So eventually she gave up, and she said, you know what, fuck you, so I'm gonna just fall asleep on your floor. And as she lay passed out on my floor, one concern was gone, but the other one just arose. What if she wakes up in the morning not remembering what happened and decides to accuse me of rape? So I knew I had to do something, and I had to do something fast. So first things first, I grabbed the condom wrapper and I grabbed the condom and get out of there. So I'm texting people on the Discord chat, letting them know what happened, because I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't think that this would ever happen to me because I've always been the outlier that no one seemed to notice. But let's face it, in a courtroom, a white girl versus a black man, who do you think is going to win? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, I don't want to make this about race, I'm just being honest here because the stats don't lie. So I ran out of my apartment, grabbed a few things like my backpack, threw my laptop in there so I could actually have something to do while I was getting out of there. So the first thing I did was go to like a convenience store and buy a snack or two and keep the receipts so that if there was ever a time where it was necessary, I can actually show the police and say, this is where I was at such and such a time, because I knew I was going to need an alibi. Now, I also took Lyft to get it from place to place so I could actually show where I was traveling and have receipts to back it up as well. So the thing I was looking for was a hotel that I could stay for the night. Now, most of them were full because there was an event going on, and no, I'm not going to tell you what events they were. I ended up narrowly finding one room, and it was fairly pricey. It was like $300-something. So I had to pay that, and I was minus a few $100, which I was definitely not happy about. I had to call off of work because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I had to, go back and make sure that everything was okay, and all that good stuff. Make sure that nothing was stolen as well. So when I got back, she was gone. Fortunately, I never heard from her again, and my room was left intact, fortunately. Nothing was stolen. Then I talked to my roommate, then he said that she already left. She said that she felt bad about it, and she also denied that the sex ever happened, which I guess is a good thing for me because at least if she doesn't believe it happened, then she's not going to accuse me, at least for now. But I always feel like that's still on the table for a potential blackmail in the future, so that's why I'm really hoping that it doesn't blow up in my face down the line. Of course, my roommate tries to tell me that it's no big deal because, she's not like that, she would never do that. And he was also essentially saying that you should count yourself lucky because, you got to bang yourself a lesbian. Well, to me, that's not really a trophy because, for starters, I never really had a lesbian fetish. I never saw the appeal to it. Second, in this day and age, it can come back to bite you any time. It's like one of my worst nightmares. Because to be falsely accused of rape is a devastating thing. Because they're automatically going to believe her first because, you're the big bad man and she's the innocent little victim. And a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on. So even when they find out that you were innocent, they already have the stigma against you that you're a rapist. And like TFM had to leave his hometown even though his name was cleared because of the lie that one woman told. I have my mission, and I can't afford to have it interrupted just because of a lie. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, "Hey, Shogun, I bet that didn't happen. It's all bogus." And if you don't want to believe it, that is fine. But recently, I was going through my dirty clothes, and I actually found her bra in the pile. And her scent is still on the bra, too. I initially tried to give it back to my roommate so that he could give it back to her, but he was suggesting that I kept it as a trophy. But for me, something like that is not really a trophy. It's just a grim reminder of what happened and what could have happened. So you're probably wondering, now why did I tell you all of this? I'm saying this because not only can they be the enemies of your sobriety, they can also be the enemies of your reputation as well. Now, I know we don't care about external validation, but still, the stigma of a rapist is something that doesn't go away very easily, and it can make your life a lot harder than what it needs to be. Now, my roommate says that he's not going to bring over anyone else that drinks because, for one, he doesn't want to risk losing me because that almost happened, because if I leave, he's screwed. So, we're going to work it out, and I think we should be good, but if something else like this were to continue happening, then I have no choice but to go because I value my freedom as well. Now, I can say that there's one good or positive thing that you could say happened out of all of this, and that my desire to fornicate is pretty much gone. No, the sex drive is still there, but any desire to sleep with another woman, it's gone almost completely. But regardless, I'm not happy that it had to come to that either way. So there's one more thing that I want to share with you before I conclude this video, and that is this Bible verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. Yes, that's right, I'm turning this into Bible study, boo friggin' who. Now, it says, flee from sexual immorality. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because in this day and age, that's exactly what you have to do. Don't walk, run. When there's trouble on the horizon, or when you just get the slightest whiff of trouble. Sometimes I get that slight tingle in my nose. It's like I can smell trouble, literally. When that happens to you, don't walk, run. And that is what I should have done in the first place. Just run, before there is any trouble. And it's also a sign of why you should choose your friends wisely. Because as the saying goes, with friends like you, who needs enemies? So keep your friends close, and keep your enemies of sobriety closer. So for those of my friends who do drink, I just want to say, once again, please drink responsibly. For those that do not drink, I say keep up the sobriety. And for those that want to quit, I will say I do hope you get help somewhere. So thank you for listening, and I will see you during showtime.